In a small workshop, a man named Charlie was sitting, busy repairing an old airplane, a gift from his wife Sarah. Sarah enters to greet him, as she is about to travel to attend a conference where she will spend 2 days in London. Through their conversation, it becomes clear that Charlie works for the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, specifically as a data analyst and encryption expert. After that, Charlie heads to his workplace and enters the data analysis and encrypted communications department. He sits at his desk and begins his work as usual. While working, he opens a classified file that came as part of a leak from an unknown source. On his screen appears a repeatedly recurring code bearing the name Ankaline, which seems to be an alias for an individual or an unknown entity. At first, the information is unclear, but between the lines Charlie understands that it relates to covert operations carried out by U.S. intelligence outside the boundaries of the law, particularly in the Middle East. Charlie is shocked by what he sees and begins digging deeper, eventually discovering that the U.S. government is conducting illegal operations in other countries and relying on dealings with terrorists to carry them out. The greatest shock comes when he realizes that the person responsible for these operations is his direct superior, Moore, who also serves as the agency's deputy director. Overwhelmed by what he has uncovered, Charlie collapses emotionally and rushes out of the office. On his way out, he runs into his friend Alex, who notices his distress and anxiety. Charlie tells him about the secret files he accessed, and Alex advises him to stay away from the matter so he does not get himself into serious trouble. In the evening, Charlie returns home deeply missing his wife. He tries to call her, but her phone is switched off, so he sends her a voice message expressing how much he misses her, clearly revealing the depth of his love for Sarah. The next day, Charlie arrives at work to find Moore waiting for him in his office. Surprised, Charlie asks if there is something wrong. Moore asks whether Charlie has heard anything about what happened in London. Charlie replies that he does not understand what he is referring to, so Moore asks him to accompany him to the agency director, explaining that she will clarify the matter herself. At that moment, anxiety begins to creep into Charlie. When they reach the director's office, she greets him and informs him that a terrorist attack has occurred at the Christopher Hotel in London, resulting in the deaths of many people, including his wife Sarah. Charlie cannot process what he hears and breaks down in tears, sinking into a deep depression afterward, unable to accept the idea that he will never see his wife again. However, what occupies his mind at that moment is discovering who did this to her and taking revenge. The following day, Charlie sits with Moore and asks whether they have reached any new information. Moore tells him that they are still working on the investigation and that it will take some time. Charlie is not satisfied with this response and feels they are stalling, so he decides to take matters into his own hands. The next day, Charlie goes to receive his wife's body and also discovers that she had bought him a gift and attached a message she had written before her death. As soon as he reads the message, he breaks down in tears. The day after that, Charlie arrives at his office and begins gathering information about the terrorist group that killed his wife. He discovers that they were located in a building adjacent to the hotel where Sarah was staying, intending to steal certain items. However, security uncovered them, so they killed the security personnel, then fled into the hotel and took a hostage to escape the police. Sarah defended the hostage they intended to take, so the terrorists took Sarah instead. Charlie discovers that the kidnappers' names are Mishka and Ilsh, and that the person who killed Sarah is named Schiller, a dangerous and highly influential man with extensive connections to mercenaries. It also becomes clear that this terrorist group is merely a front for corrupt state elements. He further discovers that Schiller's personal assistant, named Gretchen, is involved as well. She is a former intelligence operative and is currently in Paris, where she has a daily habit of visiting a specific cafe. When Charlie presents this information to Moore, he is surprised by Moore's lack of shock and realizes that Moore was already aware of all these details, but deliberately kept them from him. Charlie becomes furious and cannot understand why Moore behaved this way. Moore justifies his position by stating that the agency cannot take any real action at the moment for the sake of national security, and suggests that Charlie visit a psychiatrist, pointing out that his nerves are exhausted. Charlie agrees and goes to see the psychiatrist. He tells her that he feels an intense rage inside him, that he wants revenge, and that he cannot comprehend how his wife was killed in such a brutal manner. He also expresses his shock at Moore's passivity and refusal to help him reclaim his wife's rights, despite that being their fundamental duty. He assures her that Sarah's blood will not be wasted, even if he has to reclaim her justice with his own hands. The next day, Charlie arrives at his workplace and enters a secret room, where he steals highly sensitive files related to the illegal operations run by Moore. He then heads straight to Moore's office and confronts him with everything he has uncovered. Through this confrontation, it becomes clear that Moore was behind the orchestration of numerous terrorist operations, including one that took place in a hospital in Syria, another at a military base in Yemen, as well as his involvement in planning a major operation that occurred in Afghanistan. Charlie also finds evidence proving that Moore and the agency deliberately concealed the deaths of more than 1,000 civilians, all of whom were victims of illegal operations, later framing these crimes as mere terrorist attacks in order to serve shared political interests between the United States and other countries. Moore becomes extremely tense during the conversation, fearing that Charlie will expose him, fully aware that if this information were leaked, they would all end up in prison. However, Charlie assures him that he fears nothing and informs him that there is a specific code that must be entered personally by Moore every 5 days. If he fails to do so, all the files will be sent to the 3 most famous journalists in the country, exposing him to the entire world and sending him to prison. Charlie makes it clear that Moore is the only one capable of preventing this leak, and that any attempt to arrest or kill him will immediately trigger the release of the information. Terrified, Moore asks Charlie what he wants in exchange for not leaking the files. Charlie replies that he needs his help, because he wants to kill the people who murdered his wife with his own hands, without relying on the agency, having completely lost trust in it. Moore is astonished, as Charlie has no combat experience and has never carried a weapon in his life. However, Charlie's determination leads Moore to arrange specialized training for him to learn combat skills properly. Forced to comply in order to protect himself, Moore assigns a colonel named Henderson to oversee Charlie's training. Days pass and Charlie gradually improves, approaching the level of a professional operative. However, after some time, it becomes clear that the training has not achieved the desired results, because Charlie is, by nature, a sensitive and morally upright person who has never been capable of harming anyone, despite his brilliance. One day, Henderson sits with him and tells him that some people are born killers by instinct, but unfortunately, Charlie is not one of them. He explains that when the moment of confrontation comes, Charlie will not be able to point a weapon at his enemies or pull the trigger, because he is not a killer by nature. He further explains that combat does not require physical strength alone, but rather a dead heart, one capable of killing without guilt or remorse, which Charlie does not possess. Therefore, he advises him to forget the whole matter entirely. Charlie is deeply discouraged by Henderson's words, yet he remains firm in his resolve, determined to reclaim his wife's right with his own hands. At the same time, the agency, led by Moore, continues its efforts to locate the secret code Charlie planted, which contains all the information that would expose them. They thoroughly search his office, leaving no place unchecked, then raid his home in search of the code, but find nothing. Moore's anger intensifies, and at that moment he decides to eliminate Charlie at any cost. He orders Henderson to kill him. Henderson sneaks into the room where Charlie is sleeping late at night, only to be shocked to find that he is not there. He discovers that Charlie has escaped, having been certain of their intention to get rid of him. It also becomes clear that Charlie had planted a listening device and had been spying on Moore for weeks in order to learn what they were planning. After that, Charlie creates a fake identity and a forged passport and travels to France. The agency discovers that he has gone to Paris and decides to send someone after him to kill him. Upon arrival, Charlie rents an apartment facing the cafe that Gretchen frequents daily and begins monitoring the place from the window. As soon as Gretchen arrives, he quickly opens his laptop, hacks her phone, and manages to learn all her details, including her place of residence. That night, he takes advantage of her absence and breaks into her apartment, where he discovers that she has an appointment the next day at a clinic specializing in the treatment of asthma patients. He gathers all the information he needs, then leaves and hides on the staircase. When he sees her enter her apartment, he hides behind the wall and raises his gun at her without her noticing. However, when he tries to pull the trigger, he becomes tense and is unable to kill her, even though the opportunity to end her life in an instant without anyone knowing was right in front of him. He returns to his apartment frustrated and begins researching the clinic she will visit the next day, discovering that it specializes in treating asthma patients. The next day, Charlie buys a specific type of flowers that causes severe allergic reactions in asthma patients. He collects the pollen and grinds it. Meanwhile, Gretchen is inside the asthma clinic, sitting in a small glass-enclosed room equipped with oxygen, performing special breathing exercises to improve her respiration. After the session ends, the doctor leaves, and at that very moment Charlie enters wearing a medical coat, closes the door behind him, and traps her inside the glass room. He then introduces the pollen through the oxygen inlet, causing her to begin suffocating, and tells her that he will not let her out unless she tells him where Schiller is. Gretchen begins choking and asks who he is and what he wants from her. He tells her that he is the husband of the woman they killed, and that it would be better for her to cooperate, otherwise he will leave her trapped until she suffocates and dies. However, her condition rapidly worsens, and she becomes unable to breathe. Fearing that she might die, Charlie releases her from the room. As soon as Gretchen exited the room, she violently attacked Charlie, striking him repeatedly, then fled swiftly out of the clinic, running into the street among the cars. Charlie chased after her, trying to stop her, but suddenly a car appeared and struck Gretchen forcefully, killing her instantly. Charlie was stunned by what had happened, as Gretchen had been the only person capable of helping him reach the gang's location. Without a second thought, he grabbed her phone and fled the scene before the police arrived. Frustration and depression overtook Charlie, and that night he decided to go to a nightclub to change his state of mind. While there, he was surprised to see Henderson standing in front of him and immediately realized that he had come to kill him. Charlie ran for his life and hid in another building, only to find Henderson pursuing him, forcing him to confront him to find out what he wanted. Charlie was astonished when Henderson began giving him advice and life lessons about how to deal with people. Charlie thanked him for the advice, but Henderson then revealed that he had planted a bomb in the place, which would explode in a few moments. Seconds later, the bomb detonated, and Charlie quickly fled. Afterward, Charlie contacted Ankelane, telling her that he needed her help and that they had to meet face to face. Ankelane informed him that she was in Turkey and sent him the address for their meeting. The next day, Charlie arrived in Turkey and met Ankelane, surprised to discover that she was a woman. She told him they needed to leave immediately and asked him to meet her in half an hour at her car. True to her word, they met after 30 minutes and set off in the car. During the drive, she told him about her life, revealing that she was a Russian widow, formerly married to an ex-KGB agent, and currently working in intelligence. Her late husband had taught her the methods of data encryption, and she had been in contact with Charlie throughout the past period to help him expose criminals within the country. Charlie told her that he needed her assistance now to reach the people who had killed his wife and exact revenge himself. Ankelane agreed to help and took him to her secret house, where he discovered that she had been gathering the same information about the terrorists that he had collected. However, she had obtained new intelligence, learning that Mishka was currently in Spain. At the same time, the director of intelligence was sitting with Moore, beginning to suspect that he was involved in illicit activities. Moore dodged the conversation, leaving her with no clear evidence of his actions. The director left and went to her car, where her assistant brought her a photo of Henderson, informing her that Moore had sent Henderson after Charlie to kill him. At that moment, the director became certain that something suspicious was happening and decided to investigate the matter herself. The next day, Charlie arrived in Spain and learned that Mishka spent most of his time in the swimming pool. He decided to plant explosives there. While Mishka was swimming as usual in the rooftop pool, he was startled to find Charlie standing before him, demanding that he reveal Schiller's location. Mishka was bewildered, thinking Charlie was joking, and asked him who he was. Charlie told him that he was the husband of the woman they had killed and assured him that he would not harm him if he cooperated. However, if he tried to escape, Charlie warned that he would press the button in his possession, causing the pool beneath him to explode. Mishka refused to cooperate and began swimming at top speed, trying to escape the pool before the explosion, but he failed. Charlie pressed the button, and the pool detonated gradually from beneath Mishka, killing him. Ankelane was monitoring the situation through direct contact with Charlie and quickly instructed him to escape immediately, as Henderson was present at the scene. Charlie fled rapidly and hid inside a building, while Ankelane guided him through the routes he should take. Henderson was on the verge of catching him when another agent arrived and attacked Henderson. The two engaged in a violent struggle. Henderson was injured but ultimately managed to kill the other agent. Charlie watched from a distance, seeing Henderson wounded, and hesitated between helping him or leaving him. He then received a call from Ankelane, instructing him to escape immediately, which he did. Meanwhile, the director of intelligence summoned Moore and asked him about Charlie's whereabouts. Moore claimed that Charlie was still on morning leave, deeply affected by his wife's death. At that moment, the director realized he was lying, though she did not confront him. At the intelligence center's monitoring unit, the team was able to pinpoint Charlie's location and discovered that he was in contact with someone providing him with all the information, revealed to be Ankelane. They then decided to assassinate her. That night, while Charlie and Ankelane were asleep, they heard the alarm go off, realizing that the agency had discovered their location and dispatched special forces to eliminate them. The two fled quickly, got into the car and drove away, but unfortunately the special forces succeeded in killing Ankelane. In the end, Charlie manages to escape from them and parks the car in a remote location. He collapses onto it, crying, and kisses her on the head for the last time. Then he leaves her inside the car and continues on his way. Lost and unsure of where he is heading, he cannot get the image of his wife's murder out of his mind, and his anger intensifies, leaving him indifferent to everything else. Charlie had seized Mishka's phone, and a message arrives on it, revealing that a missile deal is to take place in Romania, with Elsh responsible for delivering the shipment. On the day of the delivery, Elsh stands alone beside the missile crates. Suddenly, Charlie appears before him, surprising him by revealing that he has planted explosives in the shipment and that any movement would trigger an explosion that would destroy the entire site. Charlie introduces himself, telling Elsh that he is Sarah's husband, and demands to know the location of Schiller. Elsh informs him that Schiller will be on his ship in Russian waters. Charlie lets him go and then detonates the entire site. Afterward, Charlie travels to Russia and begins planning how to reach Schiller. He heads to the port and engages in a confrontation with one of Schiller's gang members, intentionally provoking the encounter so that he would be taken to Schiller. Indeed, the man takes him to Schiller on his ship. There, Schiller tells Charlie that he never intended to kill his wife, but when he found himself surrounded by the police, he had no choice but to kill her. Schiller looks into Charlie's eyes and tells him that they are not the eyes of a killer, then hands him his gun, kneeling before him and asking him to take revenge on him for his wife. Charlie takes the gun and points it at Schiller, recalling that someone once told him that the moment he holds a weapon and aims it at his enemy, he would not be able to pull the trigger because he is not a killer, and this moment confirms the truth of that statement. He lowers the gun and returns to his place. Suddenly, the ship's course changes on its own, leaving them confused and bewildered. Charlie surprises them by revealing that he has taken control of the ship and is now directing its path. He informs them that the ship is heading toward Finnish territorial waters, where Interpol forces are waiting to apprehend them. Moments later, Interpol and local police storm the ship, arresting Schiller and all his accomplices. Following this, the Director of Intelligence appears at a press conference, announcing that she has uncovered the involvement of high-ranking individuals within the agency in illegal operations, reassuring the public that all those responsible will be held accountable. Simultaneously, Moore and all those who collaborated with him are arrested. A few days later, Charlie returns to his country and meets with Henderson, thanking him for not killing him even though he had the chance. After some time, Charlie repairs the airplane that his wife had gifted him and takes to the skies, feeling victorious, having finally avenged his wife.